we're back. It's Lindsay.
Hi.
And I'm Maria. And we are real life college roommates who love movies. Lindsay has, you got your degree in film, and
Yeah.
then I was a movie critic for like 20 years. So we have decided that this week we'll be watching The Princess Bride because Lindsay has never seen it before. I've seen it multiple times. I saw it when I was a kid, like maybe like 5 or 6 years old. And from then on. But Lindsay had never seen it, so I'm excited to hear what she thinks about it. But it's a classic for me. My dad introduced me to it, so we would watch that together a lot. And it's got a lot of quotable lines, like "As you wish." You hear that one a lot. You know, "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." Some of the most famous quotes, right? So of course we had to bring this one up because I just love it. But it stars a lot of people that you probably recognize from shows today. So we've got Fred Savage, right? And he had the Wonder Years. So this is right before that. Um,
Yeah.
we got Peter Falk, Harry Ellis, Robin Wright, who was also in that political show with Kevin Spacey on Netflix. That was going on for a while.
Yeah. House of Cards.
House of Cards, that's right.
Yeah.
And you have Mandy Patinkin, who, he plays Inigo Montoya, and is just really great in this role in particular. You've got Billy Crystal, Andre the Giant, Peter Cook. Like the cast is pretty much stacked. Chris Sarandon, Christopher Guest, Wallace Shawn. Like they had a really great cast. You can't go wrong with this one.
Right.
So, Princess Bride came out in 1987. Oh my goodness. How old were you in 1987?
How old was I? I turned 4 that year.
Yeah, same here. Three
Yeah.
going on four. So
Yeah.
I got it, of course, after it hit the VHS market. So I'm sure it was a blockbuster night rental or something.
Yeah. Um, let's see. It there you go. It the budget was 16 million and the box office was 30.9 million.
Yeah. And they would call that like a soft success. Because to
Mm-hmm.
like be a real success, they want you to make 3 times the money back, which is just ridiculous, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but for a little rundown, if you've never seen The Princess Bride, I'm just gonna do the Wikipedia entry here, and then we'll get on to what we think about the movie. Okay, so it starts off with Fred Savage. He's not called that, he's just the grandson. And his
Yeah.
grandfather, played by Peter Falk, is coming to read him a story because he's like sick at home from school or something, can't go out, he's got the flu or something. And he's got this really incredible, like, 80s bedroom that's just totally
Oh,
perfect.
yeah.
He's got like he's in the bed and he's got the shelf behind him. You can see like a He-Man, a Captain America figurines, like a classic bag of Cheetos right
Mm,
there. He's got like an Empire Strikes Back cup with one of the straws that's like curled up and everything, and it's just like it totally transports you to
mhm.
1987. He's
Right.
playing this baseball game that's probably like I don't know, 4-bit maybe, 4-bit or 8-bit baseball game. And so his father comes in to read him the story, and he's initially like, "Is this a kissing story? Because I'm not into that."
Right. He's so
And
grossed
because
out.
he's like maybe 8. He's like, "I'm not into that." And his grandfather's like, "Well, maybe one day you won't bother. It won't bother you as much."
Right. Right. Live long enough, you'll change your mind.
Right. And so he pulls out the book and he starts reading them the tale of the Princess Bride, which is a tale about Buttercup, who's this young farm lady living on a young farm. I don't know, like we don't see her parents or anything, but she works with the farm boy, right? This is Wesley, and anything she asks of him, he always says, "As you wish," and she enjoys ordering him around. And he always says, "As you wish." And eventually she realizes, oh, he's actually saying, "I love you," when he's saying that.
Mhm.
And she was like, "Oh, I kind of like him too." So they have their little romance and everything. And then for some reason, he goes to find his fortune overseas. Uh, and his ship runs into the Dread Pirates Robert's ship, and everybody knows he doesn't take any captors, right? He kills everybody. So, believing he's dead, she's just renounced love altogether. Just is very sad, won't eat or drink. And years go by, and we find out that she's going to be married to Prince Humperdinck because he's decided he's going to marry a commoner, right, to bring the people together. But really, what he's going to do is have her kidnapped and dumped on the shores of a rival kingdom, right? So he can use that. You say they murdered her, and then he can use that excuse to go and attack them. So that's what the real plan is. And so to carry out this plan, he has her kidnapped by Vizzini and Fezzik and Inigo Montoya, right? So Vizzini is the brains, Fezzik is the muscle, is Andre the Giant, and we have Inigo Montoya who's got the sword skill.
Mm-hmm.
So they capture her. They take her up this cliff, and that's when when they're going to the cliff, they're on the ship, and they see the other ship following them. This guy in black is going up the rope. Who is this guy? They don't know. They cut the rope. He has a whole conversation with Inigo Montoya, right? Like, you seem like a nice guy. I would hate to kill you. He's like, you seem like a nice guy. I would hate to die, right? So they have this very gentlemanly, like, sword fight. That, I mean, looking at it now, it's like, oh, this took some real skill. Like, the choreography here is incredible.
Yeah.
I actually found out they spent like 4 months just doing sword fighting, learning their style and then learning the other person's style as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I was like, this is like, except for like one of the backflips, there were no stunts. It was all them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So after the man in black defeats Montoya, he goes on to meet Fezzik, who's throwing rocks at him. And the first one he misses on purpose, but it hit the other rock so hard, it was more like a bomb going off. I was like, that would have killed anybody.
Right.
And the man in black realizes he can't really physically best him. He's Andre the Giant. And he's basically just giving him big bear hugs and not like,
Right.
there's nothing you can do. And he eventually is able to get his arms around his neck and hang on to his back to try and choke him out for dear life, because he's Andre's like hitting him against the rocks and everything, but he's still holding on. So eventually he passes out, and then he goes on to meet last guy Vizzini, who's the brains, right? So he's got this whole setup, and he's got Buttercup captured with him, and he's going to he's going to poison, right? The whole idea is like the witch cup has the poison, right? And so Vizzini's trying to outsmart him. The man in black is not giving him anything with his face, no hints or whatever. If I were going to poison me, I would put the poison in the cup, furthest from me. But you probably would have thought of that, so he probably put the poison in the cup next to you. And, like just going back and forth, just having this conversation. Guy in black is just sitting there like, yeah, okay, like. And tricks on him. He drinks it. He laughs because he's like, I'm sure I got it, This is a pretty famous scene where he's just laughing and laughing and just falls over dead.
Mm-hmm.
And because both of the cups are poisoned, right? And the man in black had been, building up resistance to this particular poisonous iocane powder. So he gets Buttercup, and he's like upset with her for getting married to this other guy and not waiting for Wesley. And she was like, he's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I waiting on?
Right. And they see Prince Humperdinck's soldiers who are looking for Buttercup on the horizon. And she pushes the man in black down the hill. And she's like, oh, you don't have to deal with him anymore. And as he's rolling down the hill, he says, as you wish. And she's like, oh my God, it's Wesley. So she throws herself down the hill, and so they're both just tumbling down this hill to escape. And they reunite, and they're like, he's like, I can't believe you didn't wait for me. She was like, you were dead. He's like, true love always waits, or whatever. And they kiss and make up, and then they run into the fire swamp. The fire swamp has actual fire that comes out of the ground. One danger. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have what is this? The sand, the quicksand that I didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the rodents of unusual size, which are like the size of German shepherds with extremely nasty mouths.
Yeah.
Like, and they contend with each challenge, and Wesley gets really kind of bitten up really badly by one of the rodents, and they make it out of the forest. And on the other side is Humperdinck's men. So they finally captured him. They've rescued Buttercup, and they're going to kill him. And she's like, "Wait, I'll go with you guys. Just please don't kill him. Let him go." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, okay, whatever." And then they're like, "We're gonna kill him." So they go off with Buttercup, and they knock. Before they knock Wesley out, he sees that I guess he's like the general for Prince Humperdinck's army, has
Mm-hmm.
his fingers on his right hand, and he's like, "Oh, somebody's looking for you," you know. And the person who's looking for him is Inigo Montoya, because while they're sword fighting, he gives this. It's really funny because there's a lot of exposition in this scene, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't really mind at all. 'Cause it's like,
No, you don't even think about it.
right. You don't
Yeah.
think about it. You've got all these jokes and the sword fighting and everything. You're like, oh yeah, he did just tell him his whole backstory.
Yeah. Right.
So Montoya's father was a sword maker, and the guy came in and ordered this very fancy sword, and told him he was going to pay him handsomely for the sword. So his father made the sword. And when the guy came to collect, he told him, "No, I'm going to pay you half of what I said," and then killed his father and tried to take the sword. Montoya somehow kept the sword, and so he's looking to avenge his father. So he's always asking anybody if they know anybody who has 6 fingers on their right hand, because that's what he remembers.
Mm-hmm.
So we take Wesley to this pit of despair, where they have him being tortured by this life sucking machine to suck years off of their life. And Buttercup eventually confesses to the prince, like, I'm in love with Wesley, so I'm not going to marry you.
Mm-hmm.
And the prince puts on this big show of, "Oh, I'm going to send my 4 fastest ships to go find him and let him know how you feel so he can come and get you." And she's like, "Good, because, Wesley's coming for me. He's not going to let me marry you anyway, you know." And of course, he's not sending those ships, right? He's not going to.
Right.
And he's also got his, like, I guess, chief of police, basically, uh, and telling him, "Oh yeah, there's this big plot where Princess Buttercup is going to be murdered on the wedding night, so we need to increase our guards, and we need to flush out the forest of thieves, right? The thieves forest and everything." And so they do that. And there in the forest of thieves, we find Montoya, who's there drinking his sorrows away, because the plan failed. And the thing was, if the plan failed, they would go back to the beginning. And so that was the beginning for him. So he's the only one who won't leave. Even the brute force folks can't take him out. He refuses to leave. And he actually runs back into Andre the Giant, who's working for the brute force. And they're talking about each other, and they hear Wesley being tortured, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because after Buttercup has confessed her love and for Wesley, and that she knows he hasn't sent his ships and everything, she still won't marry him. He locks her in the tower. He runs down to the pit of despair and puts the torture device on 50 years. So Wesley is screaming so loudly the entire kingdom can hear him.
Mm-hmm.
And Montoya and Andre, they're like, "Oh, that has to be him. His true love is getting married to someone else. Who else could be in so much pain, right?" They're like, "We have to find him." And eventually they find him, and they're able to rescue him. They have to take him to Max the miracle worker. So that's Billy Crystal and his wife, Carol Kane.
Mm-hmm.
This couple, very eccentric, very funny couple, and they're like, "Oh, he's mostly dead, but he's still a little bit alive." So they're gonna make this pill to help him stay alive. And they have like this I don't even know what you call this thing, but it like forces air down his throat.
Yeah, it was like some type of accordion style
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
So they're able to get him out of there, put the pill in his mouth, and revive him a little bit. But he's got it's his strength coming back, but very, very slowly. So he's having trouble moving his head. He can't walk, all that kind of stuff. which leads to a lot of very good physical comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're they go on like their own adventure. So they get into the castle. They beat like 60 people, right? And they do it by dressing Andre up in this big black cloak, right? You know, he claims to, they wheel him in on this wheelbarrow. He claims to be the great pirate Roberts, right? And then they set the cloak on fire so it looks like he's on fire and threatening the men, and a lot of them run away, and so they're able to get in the castle that way. And
Mm-hmm.
so once they're able to get in the castle, they have to fight their own battles. So, you know, Andre's beating people, and then uh, Wesley is pretty much laying in bed because he can't really fight.
Right.
And Montoya actually runs the guy that kills his father. And, you know, he gets to tell him, you know, I am Inigo Montoya, you kill my father, prepare to die. They have a sword fight, you know, and they're pretty evenly matched. And Montoya actually gives him matching scars on his face that he had given him when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and he gets very hurt, like his shoulder gets hurt, he gets stabbed in the gut and everything. And he's finally able to best the other guy, and he's telling him, you know, promise me power, promise me your money. And the guy's like, I'll give you anything, I'll give you everything I have. He's like, what do you want, just name it. And he says, I want my father back, and kills him.
That
And I
was a
was
good.
just like, that was a good one. And the thing about that scene in particular is he had actually lost his father when he was a kid, um,
Mm-hmm.
and cancer. And so that was really what inspired him with this scene. And you can really
Oh,
just see it in his face. It's very intense. And there's
yeah.
actually a documentary about the Princess Bride where they're like, where he says, I killed the cancer that day. My father was back with me for a moment. It's just like,
Oh,
you know,
wow. Yeah.
so
The
knowing that and looking at that scene,
actor.
like, yeah, yeah, he's amazing,
Yeah.
right? Because this is like, it didn't have to be that good, right? This is not like a
Mhm.
movie where you're like, oh, this is going to be a Star Wars. It didn't have to be that good, but it was excellent.
Right. Right.
So
You
they're
felt it
able
in
to, you really felt it. You can like see it in his face. And like
that.
even
Hmm.
his accent drops for that particular line.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So Buttercup is able to find Wesley as he's like still trying to recover in like these royal chamber bedroom, and Prince Humperdinck finds him too, and he's gonna fight Wesley or whatever. And Wesley's like, well, no, he's like, we're gonna fight to the death. And Wesley's like, no, we're gonna fight to the pain. And he's like, what is that? You know? And he tells him, I'm gonna cut off your feet, then I'm gonna cut off your wrists, I'm gonna cut out your eyes and your tongue, but I'm gonna leave your ears so you can hear everyone who says, oh my God, what is that thing ringing in your perfect ears forever? You
Mm.
know, just a lifetime of anguish and pain and isolation, basically. And it's like, yeah,
Mm.
that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah. A little bit.
Uh, yeah, still on the table. Can we do that? So they're able to freak him out, and Buttercup ties him up, and then Andre shows up with like four horses, and they're all able to escape. And Montoya's like, I don't know what to do anymore. He's like, I've been on this revenge quest for so long. Like, what do I do now? And Wesley's like, well, you could become the Dread Black Pirate Robert. So,
Mhm.
and that's pretty much where the movie ends. And we get back to the grandfather and, you know, his grandson. And of course, the grandson is like super into the story by now, right? He's
Right.
even asking his grandfather what happens before his grandfather can read it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, he asks him to come back and read it to him again the next day. And his
Yeah.
grandfather says, as you wish.
I thought that was real cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so what was the biggest impact for you since you've been watching it since you were a kid?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I haven't seen it in a very long time.
Hmm.
So this time for me, the biggest impact was definitely uh, uh, Mandy Patinkin and Inigo Montoya telling him, you know, I want my father back.
Hmm.
Like, you could really just feel the impact of that line. And I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, he really means that, you know. Also, like just noticing more the technicalities of things, right? As I
Hmm.
mentioned before, the sword fight. It's like, they're doing a lot, right? They're having to switch hands, you
Yeah.
know, and they're doing like a lot of dancing and like there's acrobatics and it's like
Hmm.
okay, wow, they really put some skill into this, you know.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what it was for me was it was certain parts where it was like on a satiric level,
Hmm.
and then certain parts were real. Like the whole scene where he was like, I want my father back. And then the sword fighting was just like perfect. But then you got them climbing up that mountain on the rope, and the up close scenes were obviously silly on
Silly.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then when they had Andre the Giant in the cloak, for the far away shots, you could tell it was just
Yeah.
something that they put in the cloak.
Right.
You know, so it was like some of the stuff was like satire on purpose, but then some of it was like they really put some thought into it.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
now with you
They
saying that they spent like 4 months, you know,
yeah. Just on the
so
sword fight.
training. Yeah, yeah. So
Training,
that's
learning their part, the other person's part, and then learning on both hands.
right, right, right. That's a lot
And
of
the guy they
skill.
trained with actually trained folks for Star Wars.
Oh wow! So that's probably where some of the budget went right there, getting him.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that I think that was like a big standout for me, um, and probably a big takeaway for me as well. You know, what would you say was your biggest takeaway?
Just how well done it all is,
Hmm.
right? Because it doesn't feel cheesy. Because it doesn't take itself too seriously, right?
Yeah.
They're not afraid to be silly and have fun with things, but like it also doesn't feel. It's also engaging, right?
Hmm.
And then even with Buttercup and Wesley, like it somehow makes sense. Like I didn't spend a lot of time thinking, well, why are they together? Why do they even like each other? Like I can't see why they would like it. Like they work together on screen, and
Hmm.
apparently they had a crush on each other in real life, so that helped too.
Oh, they did. Well, I guess that would make sense. They're working so closely to one another, so
Hmm.
that would make. Um, but yeah, yeah. I know there was a couple of things that stood out. One of them was how big Andre the Giant's hands were compared to Wesley's face.
Yes,
That
uh,
I mean, we all know
yeah,
that he's big, but golly.
huge. He's huge, and they actually told a story where they were on set and it was very cold, and Robin,
Hmm.
who plays Buttercup, was very cold, so he just put his hand on her head to keep her warm. She said it worked really well. She said his
Yeah.
hand was like down here, like covering almost half of her face.
Right, right. That's funny.
Yeah,
And I that makes
yeah,
sense because that's one of the places where you get cold at is in your head.
yeah.
So
And they said
yeah.
I was watching like some other videos and stuff about Princess Bride, and so they were talking a lot about some of the things you can find in the documentary. The documentary is on YouTube for free, by the way. The movie is also on Hulu and a few other places as well.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
was
they were
Prime.
yeah, see, and
Hmm.
they were saying that one of the things Andre the Giant really liked about working on the set was like people didn't stare at him; they just treated him like a normal human being, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Uh, yeah, that they got really close and everything, and except for when they would go out to eat, he would order like 4 or 5 appetizers, and he had this drink called the American that he would order, which had like 12 different liquors in it, and it was like 40 ounces.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, yeah, I'm assuming he has a high tolerance. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They said he passed out in the hotel lobby, and they tried to call him a cab, and the cab driver was like, "I can't fit him in here." What do you mean? Let him
I
sleep
wonder
off.
what's his at. Let's see
Hmm?
how big he actually is.
Andre? Yeah.
Was yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, he had a daughter.
Mhm.
Oh
7 feet
wow.
4 inches tall.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
520 pounds.
Golly. I think that's the tallest person I've ever heard of. Wait, no, there's somebody in the Guinness book.
Yeah, there are people who are taller, but yeah, he's still incredibly tall.
Right.
They call him
I
the
wonder
eighth
how
wonder
tall
of the
his parents.
world. Hmm?
I said, I wonder how tall his parents were. Golly, 7'4". I would hate to wrestle against him. I'm like, nope, you got it.
Wow. At birth, he weighed 13 pounds.
13. Oh, so they knew from the jump.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, he had one daughter. Where is she? She's an actress.
I mean, he died pretty young. He's 40. He was 46 years old.
Yeah. And his daughter's 43 right now. So I couldn't imagine him. Ooh,
Can you
yeah.
imagine having a 13-pound baby?
No, no. I know the biggest I've ever heard of somebody that I actually know is 11,
Hmm.
but not I've never heard 13. And that person had a vaginal delivery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yep. But golly. Okay. So yeah. So that's Andre the Giant.
That's
Uh,
amazing. Yeah. And then we also have Rob Reiner, who was the director of the film. He
yeah.
also did This is Spinal Tap.
Okay.
Before that, he was on All in the Family. He played the son in All in the Family.
I
He
knew I
also
knew.
did, yeah. It was like, I know that name. I know that name.
Yeah.
But also being on
It
that shows how he got to do this one, because this movie was his follow up to Stand By Me, which is another like iconic film of the 80s. And so
Yeah.
Norman Lear, who was the runner, director of All in the Family, helped
Right.
him with this movie.
Yeah. I saw that he was the producer, and that's why I was like, that makes sense with him being the director, why he would be the producer on this film.
Yeah,
Yeah, because Norman Lear, he did a lot of great TV shows.
a lot. Yes.
Yeah, and he's still alive and kicking too. Yeah.
That's which is incredible. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Because have you been seeing when they've been recreating his shows?
Some of them,
Um,
yes.
yeah.
Because what was the one on Netflix?
They did one
One
on
day at a
that.
time. One day at a time.
Oh no, no, I'm talking about when they do a special on ABC
Oh,
and Jimmy Kimmel hosts it with Norman Lear.
oh no, I
They'll
didn't see that.
Oh yeah, they've done several. So they've done All in the Family, The Jeffersons, um, The Facts of Life, and Different Strokes.
Oh wow, no, I
Yeah, they
missed
did
all of
Facts
that.
of Life and Different Strokes like a few months ago, and then like probably like a year or two ago, they did all what is it, All in the Family and The Jeffersons. Yeah, and I want to say they've done Mama's Family before.
Okay.
Eh, I could totally be wrong about that, but yeah, um, they and then they get like A-listers. Like when they did Different Strokes, they got Damon Wayans and Kevin Hart to play Willis and Gary Coleman's character. What was his name? I forgot his name, but Gary Coleman. Kevin Hart played Gary Coleman,
Oh
and then
wow.
John Lithgow played the dad.
Oh, the father. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot his name. Um, but yeah, so they did such a good job. And then on All in the not All in the Family. What is that called? I just said it. The one with Tootie. Facts of Life.
Okay.
Gabrielle Gabrielle Union played Tootie.
Oh
So
wow. No, I
yeah,
missed that.
Yeah. And then when they did the Jeffersons, Jamie Foxx played George Jefferson. And they do it live in front, that's what it's called, live in front of a studio audience. And um and then Woody Harrelson played um the dad on All in the Family.
Mhm.
But when they did the Jeffersons, Jamie Foxx messed up his lines, and
Oh no.
it was so funny because he was saying it, he was like, "Boo, boo," and then when people started laughing, he looked at the audience and was like, "Don't act like y'all ain't never messed up before." Like,
He did?
yeah, yeah, it
Oh
was funny.
wow.
Yeah, it was funny. I know Hulu at one point had them on their app, but I don't know if they're on there anymore. So, but
Oh,
yeah, if you look up
I'll have
live
to
in
check those
yeah,
out.
yeah. So,
But
but
what was your takeaway from the movie?
um, my takeaways were how everybody had an accent except for one pirate that was on the Cosby Show. He had a regular
Is
accent.
yeah,
Yeah, he had an American accent. Everybody else was English.
Vicini, excuse me. Yeah, Vicini. The one
Yeah.
who died of the iocane powder.
Yes. Yes. So that was funny. Then Andre the Giant's hands were huge. Like I knew he was big, but they didn't. One thing I will say, they didn't make him seem as big as he actually is.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell he's a big man, but you don't think, oh, he's 7 feet 4 inches tall.
Right. Right. You think he maybe like 6'7", 6'8", you
Right.
know. It wasn't until he put his hands on Wesley's face that I was like, golly, he's huge.
Yeah.
So, um, then yeah, I mean, it was like your typical, you know, palace love story or whatever. Just a woman locked up in a castle for the most part, and she don't want to
Mhm.
marry who they're telling her that she has to marry. But
Mhm.
it was a twist because the person that she was being told that she has to marry was doing it for the all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, he was gonna murder her.
Mhm.
Like that was the
Right,
whole thing of marrying a commoner, right? He
right,
didn't have
right,
to sacrifice any of his nobles.
right. So, um, I did like that. I did like that twist to a typical story that's been
Yeah,
told. So,
you get a little political intrigue.
mm-hmm. Yep, yep. So, those were pretty much big takeaways for me.
Mhm.
Um, so why did you choose this movie?
Well, I chose this movie because for me, it's a classic. You've got my rating already, right? Just like it's very enjoyable. It's fun. It's got so many quotable lines. Like it's got a good like is they consider it a cult classic because it didn't make as much as they thought it would.
Mm-hmm,
Um, but it's had such a longevity
mm-hmm.
that you can find Funko Pops of these characters now. Like
Yeah.
there's Monopoly games, and there's always tons of T-shirts. You go to any convention, you're gonna find a T-shirt that says "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya."
Right. And he annoyed that man. Would you stop saying that?
He's on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
You killed my
Right.
father. Prepare to die.
Right. Right. It was not a game. Um, and can you see this being remade in present day?
Well, they had already had talks about remaking it a couple years ago, actually, like back in 2019,
Oh yeah.
and everybody was like, "No, why would you? It's pretty much perfect the way that it is."
Mm-hmm.
Um, you would have to take a totally different approach, I think, which would be hard because the person who wrote the screenplay is also the author of the book.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can't really get any better than having the author write the screenplay.
Right. Right.
And then also the guy who plays Wesley, he responded to it with a line from the movie because Buttercup is going to kill herself. She does not want to marry this man,
Right.
and she's actually goes into the bedroom where he's laying up to do this. And he's like, don't, it would be a shame to ruin a perfect pair of breasts. There are so few in the world. And so, he said the same for the movie. It'd be a shame to ruin such a perfect movie. There are so few in the world.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard any talk about that since. And that's good. I'm glad with that. Like, not everything needs to be remade. There's so many stories that have not been told.
That's true.
You know,
That's true. But do you think
tell
that
those
it
stories.
would, with the climate of today, do you think that something like this would survive?
Yes. I think it would. I think audiences' tastes have broadened between
Mhm.
1987 and now, because one of the issues with the film was they didn't know how to market it, right?
Okay.
How do I market this, um, you know, medieval romance, political intrigue comedy
Yeah.
with pirates?
Right.
How do you market, But I think audiences are much more used to movies that cross genre lines and have a little bit more complexity than just one genre. So I
Hmm.
think it would do really well now, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
I
I
feel
can.
like it's definitely one of those movies you could have, like, how they have Rocky Horror Picture Show or The Room or something like that. You could do that with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. Um. Yeah. So our rating system. So the rating system is as follows. Once I get to it, here we go. All right. So one, movie reel is trash AF. Two, it exists. Three, entertaining. Four, great. Five, a true classic.
Hmm.
What say you?
I've already said it's a true classic, so it's a 5 for me. I mean, it has 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, Cinema Score gave it an A plus. Like, Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. It's considered one of the best movies of 1987. It's on several lists, like for best movies, best was it best romances, and
Hmm.
like 100 films, 100 passions is another list that it's on as well. So, and then the song that you hear over the credits, Storybook Love, was like nominated for an Academy Award as well. So,
Oh, okay.
I'll go with 5.
Yeah. Okay.
What did you?
I would say three. It's entertaining.
Okay.
I mean, it is entertaining. It's not nothing where I was like, oh my god, like
Hmm.
I can't say that, but it is entertaining. I did enjoy it. So yeah, so I would give a solid three.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Was it what you expected? Did you have different expectations?
I didn't have any expectations.
Hmm.
Um,
Did anything
yeah,
surprise you or disappoint you?
no, no, I nothing disappointed me. I don't, I just I really went into it completely open to what I
Hmm.
was gonna watch. So I didn't have any thoughts. I didn't read up on it beforehand or anything like that. I just went into it um just completely open to what I was going to watch. So sometimes that's a good thing because you don't want to be steered.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So but yeah. Um but I mean I did enjoy it. Kept my attention. So that's always a plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Right, right.
There are talks of making it into a musical.
I can see that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I can see it being successful.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely, I think, one remake that I would like to see because there's so much more you have to do for a musical.
Hmm.
Um, Song and dance and set changes, and yeah, you'll probably have to add things or take away things. It's always interesting to me how musicals can differ from their movie counterparts if they have one. Even movies that were musicals, like you have Disney musicals, you know,
Mhm.
when they get transferred to stage, they'll have different songs as well and other
Right.
scenes that are not in the film. So I would be interested to see how they do that. Mhm.
Yeah. 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 It would be interesting to see how they would do certain scenes that stand out, like them climbing up that mountain. I would love to see how they would do that.
Right.
You know,
There was even, do you remember Quibi?
the app.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There was even a thing on Quibi. It was called Home Movie: The Princess Bride, where you had fans who were actors recreating scenes for the film.
Oh,
So you have
that's
all
so.
kinds of fans who are actors recreating different kinds of scenes for people from all over the place that you probably wouldn't expect.
Mhm.
And it's on YouTube as well, so you can watch it there.
Okay. Yeah, I might have to check that out. That's different. I kind of it kind of sucks about Quibi not being around because they had some pretty good ideas over there.
They
So
had some pretty good ideas, but the idea that people would pay a subscription fee for
yeah,
that was the wrong one. That was the
yeah,
wrong idea.
right. They should have went the
Yeah.
sponsor route.
Yes, especially, I mean, you have YouTube and then you also had TikTok coming up at the time. So
True.
why would I want Quibi?
Right.
Why would I pay for that? You know, you would definitely need to put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Have a different kind of model for payment.
Right. Right. Totally agree. All right. So next week, have you seen A Thin Line Between Love and Hate?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
What about Scarface?
I have not.
All
I have
right.
not seen Scarface. I have not seen Godfather.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do remember you saying Godfather. All right. Well, let's do Scarface first, and then we'll tackle the Godfather after.
All
Because
right.
it kind of got to see all the Godfathers,
Oh.
but we're not going to see all the Godfathers in one.
Okay.
No, we're not going to do that. Yeah, we'll talk about how we'll do the Godfather.
All right.
But yes, let's do Scarface. I'm going to be so ready for you to do Scarface.
Okay.
So that will be an event. So, Maria, where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, on TikTok at Valor More Dollars. If you're watching us, it's at the bottom of the screen here, right here. But you can spell that VALARMOR dollars. I also am on a other podcast called Nerdgasm Noir. There's 5 Black women talking about geeky stuff. So come join us and hang out. Where can they find you, Lindsay?
Well, I am on all social media at L_Ranelle. That's L_RANELLE. Also have another podcast as well called The Ish We Talk. And that's me, my cousin, my friend, and we just talk about various topics and give a kind of an abstract view towards certain
Hot
things.
topics of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. We can go from serious topics to gossip to pretty much anything. So yeah. Yep. So
But thanks for joining us today, Roomies. We really love it when you all come by. So please subscribe and tell your friends about the
yeah,
podcast. If you have any movies you want to suggest us to watch, just leave it in the comments or in a 5-star review, and we'll definitely read those on air.
absolutely. Absolutely. So until the next episode, episode 7, we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.